Sense of Soul.
Hey Soul Seekers, it's Shanna. Journey with me to discover how people around the world awaken to their true sense of soul. Now go grab your coffee. Open your mind, heart, and soul.
It's time to awaken.
So today on Sense of Soul, we have Rajashree Maa, and she is actually not my guest. I'm going to be the one being interviewed today by this beautiful person. And if you don't know who she is, Rajashree Maa is an author, and she is the founder of Kali Ki Reiki, which I had her on years ago. And I say my podcast always brings me exactly what I need at the right time. And she came into my life at that time when I was just awakening to the divine feminine. And she was a big part of me rediscovering, the divine feminine within me. So thank you, Rajashree Maa, for being just such a beautiful soul in this world, not in just my life, but in many others, and for offering to interview me, which is interesting because I'm not usually in the spotlight on my podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Shanna. From the first time I met you and before you interviewed me, I listened to a number of your podcasts. And I just love, well, first of all, I love the title of your podcast, Sense of Soul, because it has multiple meanings. And the name you give yourself of being a spiritual sleuth, I really saw something. I saw this is a woman who is truly seeking her own path to inner wisdom. And the beautiful thing, right, is as you've been seeking your own path, you've been sharing this with your audience, which is like huge now for good reason. And so you've been a guide and an inspiration, even as, at least as I saw it, you would often invite in guests who were like guides to you. It's like at one point you discovered Nicholas Tesla. And so you brought in a guest who was an expert in his work. And then that's how I saw you unfolding. So it's like not only do you get this expertise of people that have these specialized areas, right? But you get to apply it to your own heart opening, your own consciousness expanding, and to, really finding your own place in the world. And that's a model and an inspiration for your listeners. And so maybe I was a part of that when you were really tuning in to the divine feminine, because that's one of my deep experiences and one of my deep truths in life. And I feel so certain that your sleuthing has led you to so many truths and that it's guided others to find their truth. So I thought we need to interview you and let your listeners hear a little bit more about your story. Like, how did this spiritual sleuthing begin? What were the remarkable crossroads as you discovered things, interviewed people? I know your introduction to the Gnostic Gospels has been very profound for you, but I wanted to just give you a chance to take some time. You've talked about your journey, right, from time to time when you're interviewing people, but let's just hear your story. Please begin where, you are guided to begin.
I think that throughout the years, you're right, I have been divinely guided. So much synchronicity in my journey within the podcast. But I started out in a place where I was living how everybody wanted me to live. I felt like I was checking off all of the boxes I was supposed to. I was playing the role that I admired, which was the serving woman And I do remember like my son's first birthday party. My mom said, "Aren't you going to feed your husband?" And I really truly was excited. I was like, "Oh my God, I get to feed my husband. Like, this is what I've waited for my whole life. Like, I'm having a party and I get to serve everyone." And I did it good for a while until I started to have anxiety, like really bad anxiety. And it was something that I had as a child, but I didn't really understand it. And I had no control over it. I didn't even have a word for it. But I went to the doctor, got on meds, and I had always been a very, very emotional person. Like I was called a crybaby my whole life. I was very attached to people's stories too. When I would hear their stories or their traumas or whatever, whether it was friends or family, I would feel it in my body. And that was something, I had no boundaries at all back then. Kind of a codependent. I wouldn't say, okay, not kind of a codependent. I was a codependent, 100%. But my children were everything to me, everything. And that's what I was taught to do. It was faith, family, friends, and there's no you in that. I really had turned off that part of me that really was my soul. And I was very lost. And so one day, really it was around my Saturn return, I must say. I think it's a real thing.
I do too.
Yeah, I mean, but I really was, who am I? What have I done with my life? I was very blessed with a wonderful therapist, after several therapists, by the way. And she said, "Let's not call you codependent anymore. Why don't you look up the word empath?" I looked it up and I was like, wow, this is me. This is me. This has always been me since I was really little. So got off the meds, and then the next thing was they suggested a mindfulness class, which this was after they had diagnosed me with ADHD, anxiety, all these things. And I'm thinking, well, I have no problem with my mind being full. So I don't know what kind of class this is, but I'd been divorced. I started a new career because I'd been working for my father for most of my life. It is a family business. My brother still owns a store. He owned a sports equipment store, and he passed away around that time. Very difficult for me because he was really my foundation. He was my go-to, my solid, my kid solid. And then I lost my best friend around that time.
Yeah, right there. And all of a sudden, all those foundations, as you said, just dropped away. Yeah.
Yeah. But the good thing is I did take that mindfulness class.
Good. And you didn't just get filled up in the mind?
I didn't. I wanted to, the internet wasn't like huge back then, so you couldn't like get a lot of information. But what I did is I went home and I researched the word mindfulness. I wanted to know more because that experience really did shock me because I thought it was a failure.
Things started. You started researching it.
I know. I've always been I used to be a true crime junkie. Like I still am a little bit. Yeah, there is something in me that's always wanting to explore. Yeah, that's true about me. And I'm really good at it, actually. So most people will come to me if they want to know, like, hey, can you look this up? And I'm usually that go-to person because I'm pretty good at it. However, I couldn't find much on mindfulness, but I saw that sometimes malas were connected to this. And I didn't know what a mala was. I had grown up Catholic my whole life. I knew what a rosary was. So I couldn't find a mala. Like the only mala that I could find was like at Lulu, and it was like $100. And I was like, I can make this. That's another thing. Around 36, I started to make everything. It's like I had all these talents that did not come from anywhere. Like I could sew like you wouldn't believe, and I didn't even know what I was doing, but I could crochet, and I loved to make these rag rugs. And I would sit there and in the middle, and as I get bigger, it's like spiraling around you. And I would sit there and I wanted to do mindfulness. And I was, as I was, it was
Yeah,
almost like a
that's a
mala some
that's a
way.
meditative practice.
Right.
A labyrinth and a spiral. And when I look behind you, with your Sense of Soul logo, and I see those beautiful colored dots, it's like, oh, there's a mala right behind you.
Wow. And I'm just putting this together for the first time. So this is what's so beautiful, about telling your story because you end up learning through recounting it. And I never put together that here I was in this labyrinth, this spiral, and I found this mantra. It was called God is love, love is God. And that felt safe to me. And so all the other words were in Sanskrit or whatever, and they were foreign to me. So I put on this mantra as I was doing my rug. And I didn't know what it was saying, but whatever it was saying was so touching. It's like my soul knew. And I would listen to it over and over. I mean, my whole house like kind of knew this mantra because it was, and then I ended up finding later it was like one of the most powerful ancient Hindu mantras ever. And little did I know I was absolutely awakening myself unconsciously. And it was beautiful because I was finding that I was like in the center of a tornado often. That's how I felt, or in the center of a hurricane. That I was in the eye where everything around me was the same, but yet here I was in this safe space and I was healing in that space. And I really didn't know what was happening. But as I changed, I realized everything around me was changing too. But
Mm.
yet, really, nothing changed,
And therefore it was new.
as if I had been reborn.
Awakening.
For so many years, not only was I diagnosed with all of the mental health issues, but I also had fibromyalgia. I had so many strange symptoms, and I had gone to massage school. And so I was starting to learn about the body and how your memories can be stored in your muscle tissue. And so I was at the same time like really merging this inner journey with also understanding the body as I worked on other people. All of it was kind of unconscious. Like I didn't understand, there was no understanding yet what was happening until I asked myself this question. This is the question.
All right.
How much had I believed in? Had I been told to believe? And of that, how much of that had I known to be my truth? Like,
Beautiful.
what was I living and believing in, that I had experienced to be my truth? And the only thing I could get, because I really sat with it, and the only thing I could get was that I knew what love felt like for my children. It was that unconditional love that was so deep that could like bring me to tears and like affect my whole body. And I had felt the Holy Spirit. I couldn't deny that experience. Not the beliefs, but the feeling, when you're in church and everyone lays their hands on you and you feel it. It's like those truth bumps happen. And yeah, so that was what I knew to be true.
That is so beautiful. And you probably are aware that in yogic understanding of awakening, it's that beliefs are of the mind. No matter how much it's been pounded into us that they're true, there's still a belief, and that is of the mind. And true awakening is greater than, outside of the mind. That's what's meant by transcendent experience. But it also needs to be felt within the body. And so, by you somehow being guided to ask that question, you recognized what was mental, what was ego, what was this this formulation, you said like you had been modeled after and you'd been told you should be this, that you aspired for, but wasn't necessarily the true nature of your being. And when you looked in and saw, felt your true nature, that was love. And that, resonated for you as truth. And our beliefs are just things we build around that experience. And of course, I think religions are all based on that same experience, but then all these beliefs are woven around them, kind of, like the spiraling around a mandala or something like that. And so it's like, yeah, those things may be true, but if they're not felt truths, if they're not my experience, they're just icing, they're not the real cake. And you discovered that actually, I think, quite early on, Shanna, and it was beautiful. You did it through your own inquiry. This is a famous inquiry. Who am I really? What am I? I am not these thoughts. I am not even these sensations or these emotions. They are part of this suit that I wear, and they're good and they're useful and they're informative. But the I that feels and thinks is not the feelings and the thoughts. It's something much more true and much greater than our own individual selves. So yeah, this is wonderful. Keep going.
Well, what was a miracle was that all of the pain that I had been experiencing, all of the anxiety, all of those things fell away as I really grasped onto what you just said.
They're all thoughts. They're all thoughts about past and future. And when we truly come into present, they drop away.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. And honestly, Rajashree, I wanted to shout this from the rooftop. I wanted to share this with my friends. I mean, I remember calling my best friend going, "You're not going to believe this. Like, I have no more pain. I mean, it's gone. I mean, you couldn't even hug me before. It hurt to hug." The anxiety that I lived with since I was very, very little was gone. And my relationships with my children also was changing because I was more present with them.
Mm-hmm.
And, being a mom, I was so busy. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, I had 3 kids in 3 different schools with a newborn, and my kids were in everything. And I was in everything and coached everything. And I thought all those things were so important. I got to do, and that's going to make me successful. When I asked myself that question, things fell. It was truly like I was shedding. One thing that I think was difficult was the religion because it was deeply, deeply rooted. In fact, in my ancestral journey, to me, I learned a lot about history, but I learned that I had an ancestor who came on the first 5 boats. He actually was from Germany because the Germans and the Swiss also came over with the French on those first 5 boats. His job was he was a witness on the boat. Before you got on it, you were to be baptized Catholic. Then I learned of an ancestor from Canada. He was a First Nation and he was a great shaman. He was a sorcerer and he was known as an apostate because in the 1600s, the Jesuits had come and they made him and his tribe convert to Catholicism. And they said when they would go back to his village, he'd still be doing his tent shaking rituals. And they wrote volumes on him. So I was able to really read how very divine this man was. And to me, it was a travesty that he and his people had to give up their culture and their belief systems.
Well, isn't it interesting that we talk about our country as being founded on religious freedom?
Louisiana was bigger than France itself. Where I'm sitting was Louisiana
Yeah.
once.
Right, that's right. It was a
Yeah.
huge part of what's now this nation. Yeah.
So it was France for a long time. Of course, went back and forth between the Spanish and France, but they also had the same beliefs. In fact, sometimes I had noticed in my tree that some of the women who were in my tree had bought their freedom under Spanish rule, which I thought was very powerful. And reading these things, I felt power as well. I was like, wow, this woman like bought her freedom. She must have, been pretty strong to do such a thing. I mean, she freed the rest of her lineage, which I'm a part of. So that's pretty powerful. But I also know that in the Black Code, every slave that came here had to go and get baptized. I mean, they got Sundays off. So, in every one of my lineages, including my father's lineage, who was Jewish, who denied their religion, their culture, and became Catholics. So, every single lineage I had, I saw how very deeply rooted this was in me. And I knew and I could feel within me it was going to be a struggle. Because one of the first emotions I felt, and I think people don't talk about this enough, but that there is this religious trauma syndrome that people can experience. And this explained why I was so angry at first. And I'd go around my house and scream, for 2,000 years? I was angry. And I think I had to go through that. And it did last probably longer than maybe it should have. It's one of the reasons why I think when I found the Gnostic Gospels, it was a safe space.
Yeah.
Because it is still Christian, even though people don't realize that, but it is taught by Jesus. It was his disciples. It was still safe.
Which gospel in particular of the Gnostic Gospels speaks to you, Shanna?
That's hard. Thomas definitely spoke to me. It was one of the first ones I ever picked up. And I love the book of Thomas. It speaks of many of the same things that Jesus said in the Bible. Of course, I think my brain's right, looking for the safety of what I know, right? But it was speaking to my soul in a different way. Like the kingdom is inside of you and it's outside of you. And when you come to know yourself, then you will be known. It reminded me of things that Jesus said in the New Testament, but yet there's this more. And also I love in the book of Thomas that he's not telling stories of Jesus, he's telling quotes of Jesus. In fact, it even says the secret teachings of Jesus. This is the quotes of Jesus. This is his words. So I can just imagine Thomas just sitting down, writing down the quotes of Jesus.
No, absolutely. And in truth, when you read the New Testament, there isn't a lot about Jesus's teachings. Yeah, there's the Sermon on the Mount, which is wonderful. There are a few of them, but mostly it's the story of what he did. And there's a lot about his healing work, which is of particular interest to me. But the Gospel of Thomas also very much parallels a yogic non-dual philosophy. And some people say that this is evidence that Jesus was trained by some yogis. There are scholars that believe that may have been the case during his lost years. We don't really know, but certainly Thomas presents his words as so deeply mystical and profound. And so, yeah, it's a beautiful bridge between the traditional Christian teaching and the more contemplative, meditative, soul awakening, I would say, teachings of Jesus and of other great masters around the world and over time.
Until you get really into the Gnostic Gospels, do you then learn about something I was very shocked about, and that is Sophia, or the idea of a mother god. Being Catholic, mother god would be Mary, right? Which I also find to be interesting. There's many texts, Gnostic text, apocryphal text, the infancy of James. These books also talked about Mother Mary and told her story. So I started to read the Gnostic Gospels, but really how I got further into them, which was probably around the time that I met you, it kind of started with my little girl. And it usually always does. I mean, my journey she's always been like one step ahead of me. It was she that had mentioned one time she was an old man when she was little, which kind of sparked me to go have my first past life regression. But she had one day come in my room in the middle of the night and said, I had a dream about this angel, Mom, and she has long red hair and she has this long green dress with this burgundy trim around it. I mean, such detail that I couldn't believe it. I wrote it down in the middle of the night. And then the next day, I had on a woman and she spoke about the goddess Bridget. And I didn't know much about Bridget, but also there was this Catholic Saint Bridget of Kildare connection. And so the next day, I had a listener and we did a reading. And I had just got a new deck. And I said, let me pull a card for you. I never even looked at this deck before. Pull the card. It's Bridget. Oh, so I get to learn a little bit more. I said, someone just talked about her. The next day, I have this man on, Sean Johnson from the Wild Lotus Band, Yogi Band, and he is going to release his album on my podcast, and I get to listen to his music before he does it. And I'm falling asleep to his music, which was very divine to do, by the way. And the beginning of one of his songs called Healing, he's chanting, Bridget.
Bridget Dolores,
Bridget. And I'm like, who the hell's Bridget? Is this like his girlfriend or something? But this is getting weird now. We've got like several, this is all in 1 week. So then the next day, I have a guest on. Her name is Bridget Finclair. And she's from England.
Oh my goodness.
Another woman who sticks out to me like you. You know, there's just certain ones that I just have a connection with, and she's one. And she's telling me how she teaches courses on the Keys of Enoch, which I was just reading the book of Enoch, so I was curious. And then she says,
so I have a small online group that I teach on a Tuesday evening, and then every other Monday I'm teaching as part of a roster the Pistis Sophia, which is also part of the Academy for Future Science.
And I was like, oh, well, I really want that Keys of Enoch book. So I get online and I order the book. And I was making my own deck, Rajashree Maa. I never actually finished, well, I did finish the deck, but I kept it for myself. And in this deck, I was making a card. It was a oneness card. And I had made this world with like hands around the world. And it was getting very dark, like the colors. So I threw a dove on it. And literally while I was doing the art, my doorbell rings. And there my book is. It's the Keys of Enoch. And I've heard lots of people experience opening their book of the Keys of Enoch. And I did also like feel like this electricity. And I just open it to whatever page. And there is the Return of the Dove. It has a map of the world and it has this dove on it.
Your dove.
And I'm like, this is so interesting. I'm making this right now. So I felt called to reach out to the Hertogs. While I was on his website, I was like, I wonder what that other book was, The Priestess of Fear. I want to find that book. And then underneath the Keys of Enoch, because there's these beautiful white pearly books with like gold etching. And underneath the Keys of Enoch was Pistis Sophia. And I heard Bridget Finclair's beautiful accent.
The Pistis Sophia.
She was saying Pistis Sophia. And I was like, well, I don't know what this is, but I'll order it. And that's how I learned about Sophia, which I had no idea who was. I'd never heard of it. And that book is a Gnostic Gospel. It was not found in the Nag Hammadi with the rest of them. It was found prior to that, actually. I think late 1700s. And it really fills in the blanks of many of the Gnostic Gospels in the Nag Hammadi library where they speak of Sophia. She's also known as the Barbello or Zoe or many other names. But in the Pistis Sophia, Jesus tells the stories of Sophia. And what I love about it most is that, like myself, who's so inquisitive and curious and seeking, so was Mary Magdalene. She was just like me.
Who also had red hair, like Bridget.
Which I also continued to study. I still was dipping my toes into, this isn't fairy tales. Women can be inquisitive to Jesus. I mean, Peter didn't like it, I must say. He was, why are you always telling her all this information? Why are you sharing all of this with her? And in one point he says, well, I've made her like a man, which even that, infuriated me. Why did he say that? And it wasn't until I started to, like you said at the beginning, using my podcast to reach out to Gnostic scholars and to people who are also on this journey.
Yeah, isn't there also a verse in the Gospel of Thomas that basically says, when the male should be the female and the female shall be the male, there I am. Meaning that ultimately we're one soul, we're one spirit, and that, our gender differences don't matter when it comes to truth and wisdom.
That was the biggest thing in my journey, I think, because I really always felt that we had these roles and that we needed to play, and I felt and staying in my own lane. And I remember there was this one moment outside in my backyard in meditation or mindfulness as I bring my dogs outside, and I looked up into the sky. I saw the sun and the moon. They were equal, and it was a waning crescent moon. Just the little I had learned and had opened myself up to, that there being a possibility of this mother God. All of a sudden, it was like I got it. It was like you can't have one without the other. You can't have the masculine without the feminine. You can't have light without dark. You can't have the sun without the moon. You can't have above without below. Like, it was all there. And as I sat there and had like this huge realization, and they are equal, and I literally did not have to move my head. I was taking pictures because I figured no one's going to believe me.
Yeah.
One white dove came above my head.
Oh my goodness.
One. It was like things were being revealed to me. And it was around that same time that I also was studying Sophia that same week. And I had come across the Vav. My last name is Vavra, Vavra. And never really had that much connection to my last name, but I kept seeing Vav as I studied Sophia. And Vav is the 6th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and it's also in Yod He Vah He, right? In the name of God. It's a word, I've learned all about the word now, but it's a connector. It's also and. It's also a hook that would connect things together. Yeah, it's also known as the Star of David sometimes, the divine feminine and masculine.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's fabulous. That is just so lovely. So when you're saying Yehovah, you're saying Jehovah, really?
Yeah.
And that it's part of that. Wow.
Right. So, then I had on the Her Talks.
But let me just say a few things about the Vav. So, amazing name, really, it is. The divine name in Hebrew, you've seen it, YHWH. Dr. Hurtak has it on the cover of his book, The Keys of Enoch. And the W is also the V, actually double V. So it's VAV. It's the letter Vav. It's the number 6, but that's not, negative. It's not a 666. It's the number of man, but it's the code. If you go 6 and 6, you get the 12. So that's very powerful. Stands in Hebrew for the linkage. It used to be the hooks for the temple curtain. So it meant it brought heaven and earth together. So that's what you're doing. And then the power of Ra, of course, most people do realize the name Ra was the Egyptian god.
But also the name of Israel. So when the children of Israel were in Egypt, they were influenced by the Egyptian cosmology. in my opinion, they elevated this into a sense of taking this into the public dimension.
So it can also be seen like ray, right? The vibration is ray. So you're like bringing in the light energy. What's the origin of that name? Do you know?
My dad's family, both sides, were from Czechoslovakia.
My grandfather came from Czechoslovakia also. The name or the Vav letter is a sign of vibration, or the vibratory nature of divine language, which all great cultures have, to elevate the normal mind into the higher vibratory creative mind.
I can see why you got into your ancestors. You could actually do a mantra, Vavra.
And which I do now, which is the most powerful thing. There's not any chant that I'd ever done in my life that could be more powerful than me chanting Vavra. And I've learned so many things about my last name over the years. It's also a Sanskrit word. It means hidden. It's also, I just learned recently, Ra actually in Hebrew means evil or bad. And that at first, not as it would. If I would have learned this years ago, I think I would have been like, but now I was like, that's okay. That just is exactly what I said before, that polarity, which I really have learned to hold chaos instead of fearing it.
Beautiful.
It's been like, it took a long time for me to learn to do that, but it helps in this life.
Can you talk about that a little bit more, Shanna? Like, can you give us a time where you really were able to hold chaos as the witness? Yeah.
I had an experience not too long ago at this cave. It was a beautiful experience. I went into, it's the Cave of the Winds here in Colorado in Manitou Springs. And they did a sound bath in this cave. I mean, like, can you imagine how amazing this was?
I love caves.
But here I am. Really had no expectations. I kind of was just enjoying the sounds. They had not just sound bowls, but they also had the Native American flute, drums. It was like a whole performance live. It was very amazing. And I did go into a deep meditation, and I was in a womb in the darkness. And I really was kind of like floating around, and I felt super safe and warm and cozy. And then I was bobsledding like down this tunnel, like going through like dimensions of space and time. And I'm making this, I mean, it was much longer and more in depth, but I'm giving the short story. And then all of a sudden, I was like birthed. And that was a really difficult time. I mean, I was squeezing through these dimensions, going super fast, like. So then I come out, and the first thing I noticed, surprisingly, is I had tears falling out of my eyes. And in that moment, it was like I popped back in to like be a witness of this. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I wonder if this is why babies cry. Like it was, but it wasn't crying because I was in pain or anything. I was crying because it was so beautiful to come here and experience this 3D world in my mother's arms. And it reminded me of the story of Sophia once I thought about it all. Because in the story of Sophia, she's like the first fallen angel that falls from the highest dimension all the way down to this 3-dimensional world. And she vows pretty much to stay here on Earth until all of us find our spark within, our light within. And, you know, many people think that, and in fact, Gnostics often think that we are stuck here and that we're being punished in these bodies and we're, you know, imprisoned in the body. But what I've learned recently, and it really does help with life, no matter what struggle comes, is that we're here to experience. humanity, nature, these things that are not in the highest dimension. And yeah, suffering and all of it too, the chaos, and all of it has only enriched my journey and given me more wisdom.
Oh, that's so, so beautiful. Sophia is wisdom.
Yeah.
How lovely. So, yeah, you spoke at the beginning of how you felt like your purpose, your dharma, so to speak, was to serve, and you did, and you served beautifully, and for many years you served happily. If, from my perspective, you're still serving, right?
Wow.
But what's different? How has your service changed, transformed, amplified since your awakening and since this journey?
Wow, what a great question. Rajashree Maa, that's another thing I think I didn't put together till just right now. Sometimes we can't see ourselves. And I guess I'm telling you, you saw that.
It's good to be our own witness, and then sometimes it's very helpful to have a witness for the witness. Yeah.
Yes, that's so true. Because at first I was so defiant. I'm not gonna ever be, that codependent martyr anymore. No more serving for me. I'm an independent woman. But it was innate in me. It was natural in me. I am nurturing, but there was a point where it was like, no, I have to think about myself. This is my journey. I have to put down boundaries. And it was like I had to go through this journey of that where I was able to accept really my true nature in a positive and healthy way and on my terms, right? Not what everyone told me that it looked like.
Not just serving as a matter of beliefs and values, which are wonderful. They're great frameworks until we know our true nature, and then to serve from your soul.
Yeah, and that's what I did. And that, I think, that's where a sense of soul comes from. When I was able to truly connect with who I was, not who the world saw me as, because that really wasn't who I was. And serving is a part of that, but it needed to be healthy. I did need boundaries, and I still need boundaries, and I still work on that too. Because yeah. And I think also learning what we just spoke of the divine feminine and the divine masculine within myself helped me find that balance. And finding the divine masculine was a journey of its own because and actually it's a funny story. My friend had asked me to do some art for her. She wanted me to create a dragon. And I created the most beautiful feminine dragon with flowers all around her. I mean, she was gorgeous. And I am a dragon when it comes to Chinese astrology.
Oh, me
And
too.
are you? Oh my gosh, I love that. See?
Different generation, but absolutely.
Yeah. My little one's a dragon too, by the way.
Okay.
So I send her it over and she's like, this is amazing. It's beautiful. And then she messages me back and goes, I was thinking about a more masculine dragon though. I was like, no, what? And she's like, yeah, a masculine dragon. I'm like, are you sure? I mean, everything in my body was like, no, I mean, it's the feminine dragon. This is her. So I make this dragon and I send it to her and she says, whoa, that's robust. And I was like, oh, I made a scary Putin dragon. I made a Nazi looking dragon. And that's not what she wanted. She wanted a divine masculine dragon. So then I had to really sit with myself. And I was like, wow, this is how I see masculine energy.
Oh, it's kind of that warrior, fierce energy.
big and bulky.
Pictorial. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I had talked to one of my listeners, a male, who absolutely is the definition of a divine masculine. And I was like, you know what? That's the energy she's talking about. So that was a huge teacher. I created a divine masculine dragon after connecting with that. And yeah, that was a huge teacher for me because I didn't realize that I still had that I thought of the masculine as dominating. And I think that as I hold space as a feminine, hold space for that masculine energy to come through, that's actually going to help make that space for them to feel that it's okay to, which is so amazing because, oftentimes we look at the world and say, why don't you change? Why don't you find your divine masculinity? But really, it is all of us that need to find it. And when you find that balance that is within you, you can then see it in others, right? You really do. Whatever's going on in you, you see in the world, whether that's good or bad.
Are there other ways you can think of to explain how your journey has changed your own life, your worldly life, and like you were just saying, how you see others, how you treat others, and how you are treated, and how you receive that treatment?
Yeah, that was a big one for me because, I'd been so used to giving, giving, giving. I've never been a very good receiver at all. I mean, I still kind of struggle with compliments, but, that self-love journey was so important early on, and life happens, the 2025 has actually kicked my ass, has been really difficult. And I had to really lean back on a lot of the tools in my toolbox, some that I had early on, that I hadn't used as much. I had to go back and I think that one can be like, this is a relapse you might feel, or a disappointment that no, it's the life experience, and there's always going to be chaos, right? I remember sitting outside one morning, and I don't always get messages. I have gotten some beautiful messages from the Divine Feminine, but this one was, I am the creator and the destroyer. And
Yes.
this is a year that I think that I knew it was coming. It was like this table that has wobbly legs that had been like that for so long, and we're trying to prop up one side to keep it balanced, but it's just not stable. And this year you could tell a lot of things are collapsing, a lot of things. And, at first it was just, I think, fight or flight, right? It was rising up in me. And me remembering, you have tools, right? Just breathe, actually. That'd be the first one. And, just holding space for and holding that chaos is what I did. When you are holding chaos, or you're still driving. That's the one thing, is I know that I do have the control. Right. Control can be a masculine word too. One that I think I was afraid of for much of my life. I was always told, you're out of control. Seeing control in that divine masculine space of boundaries, all these things have been very important this year for me.
You heard from the mother, I am the creator and the destroyer. And I resonate with that very much because the Divine Mother for me comes in the form, if you will, of Kali Ma, right? And Kali, of course, she is the Great Mother. She is the creatrix of it all. She is time and space, and that provides the ability for there to be material interaction, transactional world, etc. And just as she creates, she's always destroying. Of course, the destruction has to do with allowing some new creation to come forth. But it's not easy to love someone who's in the middle of a rampage, so to speak. Many people fear this part of the divine feminine, and so often the feminine goddesses have been portrayed as pure love, pure good, pure everything positive, right? It's like putting women on a pedestal, but then no human woman ever lives up to that. And so then women get diminished in the patriarchal society, right? Instead of acknowledging, that we're all creating and destroying at the same time. And this is part not just of the human structure, but it's the cosmic structure. And when you speak of that, I feel like it's very important to recognize that, things have to be cleared for new things to arise. And I don't feel we have control over what's going to arise all the time. And it may not be to our preference, and we don't fully understand the whys and the wherefores. But to just understand there's this constant movement, between creation and destruction or the dissolution of what has arisen. It's like, okay, in the cosmic scheme of things, there's a balance, even if I feel, incredibly out of balance at any given time. And to acknowledge those forces within us, just as you were acknowledging, creation and destruction do exist simultaneously. And at a certain point, they actually do balance out. And there is only that which is. And it's ultimately beyond value judgment of good or bad. It's just the way.
Yeah, that's beautifully put. My God, that was so beautiful. I love you. It's so true.
But I mean, is this what you resonate with? Yeah.
You just spoke everything my soul feels. And also, I remember when I did have you on and I read your book, and I would read Dark Mother, colleagues known as the Dark Mother. And I kept seeing dark matter. And just my last interview with Wonder Bob, who's amazing, he talked about the dark matter being the Dark Mother.
Holly is the dark matter.
There we go. I love it.
I know.
I love the synchronicities and, these synchronicities that you have brought onto this world stage, really, that you have. I think it's pretty great. Yeah.
I think overall it's pretty amazing, because sometimes I could be so just like, holy cow, I can't believe like the synchronicity. This is insane. But really what I've learned is that it's already in me. Allowing yourself to be curious and go on these journeys and follow, the moon when it speaks to you, or the sun, but it's already in you. It is a remembering. There is, I think, healing needed to be done in my ancestral line, in my life, so that healing, and was making space, for me to remember. And the other thing is, I've learned this is kind of like my theme so far this year, is I don't hold on to any belief too tightly, because you never know, in 5 minutes, your entire perspective could change, and that's okay. That's okay. And I think that has helped me. I don't feel so much trauma when my perspective completely changes. It's not like this collapsing of a table or a theory. It's just the nature of life.
And when you talk about, as we have been talking about, all these synchronicities, I mean, they're absolutely amazing and they're wonderful. And I had a teacher once who used to use the phrase, when the extraordinary becomes ordinary. And, at a certain level, it's like the synchronicities are already here because everything is interconnected, everything is interwoven. So of course it's going to show itself over here with one face and show itself over here with another face. And it's just that now somehow, upon being awake, right, we recognize that, oh, this is related to this and this is connected to this, because it's all connected, which then makes the synchronicities not so necessarily spectacular. It's like, well, of course, we're going to see the divine reflected any place we look when we're looking through the lenses of divine seeing. And that is awakening. And I think this is the journey that you've been on now for so long and have been able to share again with tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people. So I'm just so delighted to be able to showcase this a little bit.
Thank you. And I'm still working on my book, but I'm close to finishing.
Tell us about your book. Do you know the title?
You know what's very interesting is I just had a dream about my book about 3 days ago, and it revealed something to me again that I was juggling with. Like, should it be a trilogy? Which it should. This is the now second year in a row I have a dream where I see this trilogy, 3 books. On the spine of the book, it makes a goddess symbol when you put them together.
You put the 3 together. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So the very first one is going to be called Desperately Seeking Sophia. And I just remembered more in my dream as I said that. The first one I'm seeking wisdom. Right. And then the next one is like, so it's kind of like at the top of the Kabbalah tree. It is a trinity. And so I think that first one is wisdom, and then there's the understanding, and then bringing it all together, right? That alchemical marriage. And so it came through very clearly a few days ago. Again, I'd been struggling to put everything into one, and that was really difficult. Neil Donald Walsh had challenged me to write my book. You know, I was in a circle not too long ago, and there was just some time at the end to really pray and just reflect. And instead of praying, I kind of was asking for wisdom. And I receive it.
2 and 2 equals 4. You finally got it.
Pretty much. But really, you know what it said? This is what came to me. And I felt like it was a feminine energy telling me this, because it was like she spoke to me and said, I belong to no one. Not no one, but no one. No one. And I am home to all. And I sat with it for days and just in amazement, as well as how quickly I received it. You know, there wasn't no space to think about it. It literally just came flooding in. And as simple as it was, I thought it was so wise.
Not only is it so wise, it's the basis of a book that you could write.
Mm-hmm.
What if you wrote a book? What a daring book to write.
That could be your next book.
No, that would be your next one. What if you write such a book? I'll write the foreword to it.
I told him it's a conversation with Goddess, actually, not with God. I want to make this a book that anybody can pick up, you know, whatever stage they're in. And I want them to be able to relate to it. And I want it to be for like my neighbor.
Well, and love thy neighbor, love thyself. I think that is really beautiful. And just by you being authentically who you are, it will be completely relatable. So I look forward to it. All 3.
Yeah. Me too. I look forward to it as well. Sometimes when I read back on it, I don't know if you felt that way, I've learned more.
Oh, you know what? I go back into my book all the time and it's like, really? I wrote that? I knew that? It's like, oh, okay. And because we're always seeing things with our new eyes, right? And so things, even things we may have said or thought, they appear different to us from our current perspective because awakening is a constant evolution. And we also forget stuff. So it's good to have a reference. Yeah.
My journey's not going to end either, and that's another big part of the hang up, I think, because I'm constantly still a student and I'm constantly learning.
Well, yeah, and it's sort of like us taking this time now to talk, right? You're sharing your wisdom as it is coming through for you now, and I am to a certain degree as well. And if we do this a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, it may appear very different. That doesn't make what we're doing become obsolete. That's one thing I've discovered, that reading even an ancient text, like the Gnostic Gospels, right? Or reading some things that were written 25 years ago, 40 years ago. I mean, some of it does get a little obsolete, but stuff that is really written from soul, from transmission, from true wisdom, it's timeless.
Yeah. Gosh, and you know what else is really funny? It just popped up. So many times people will send me messages and say, oh my gosh, did you hear about this? Do you know about this? And I was like, yeah, I wrote that in my book. I say it often. Yeah, I wrote that in my book. I have a chapter in my book about that. Or I did that. And so I know it is the time for that book today.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, of course, people
Yeah.
are, and yes, that's that what morphogenetic field that Rupert Sheldrake so famously talks about. It's like you're getting this down in writing, but that wisdom is already out there. You're pulling it together. So those who are seeking a greater understanding, even though they've had the pieces of it, when they see it in the whole as the book, it will be very probably affirming and inspiring for them.
Thank you so much for doing this for me and for being you. And you know what? Tell our audience, a little bit about you and where they can find you. Because the wisdom that you share is truly very important for this time as well.
Okay, well, I don't want to take up too much time, but I am the founder of Kali Ki Reiki, which is a Reiki based in yoga and the divine feminine. My book is called May the Love Force Be With You, and it's about Kali Ki Reiki as divine feminine in yoga, and it's available in all different contexts. I'm also the founder of the Wisdom School and have many teachings and free guided meditations on my website, as well as we have a YouTube channel. But you have to find it by thewisdomschool.us because there are wisdom schools all over the world and you'll find something else. And so I teach courses in Kali Ki Reiki, and I do spiritual mentoring with people. And my background is it's an interspiritual background. I studied comparative religions. I went to theological seminary, and I mostly work in the world of yoga and meditation.
There's a video I found on your YouTube, and I actually always show my students this video, and I really like this practice, the 5 principles of Reiki. You have a little spin on them where it's like in the present moment, right? I will not worry, I think that's beautiful. And I think that that's another thing I've learned even with Reiki. It's like, make it your own. You know, these things are great foundations, wonderful, beautiful foundations, but we're evolving. And, all these things should evolve too.
Yeah.
With us, as you did with Kaliki Reiki, which I love. And also, Rajashree Maa is the type that when you're scheduling with her, well, I'm doing my day of silence that day, so I can't talk on that day, which has been such a great teacher for me too, because you don't need an entire retreat to have a day of silence or a day for yourself. You don't have to. You could have it just in your home,
Absolutely. It can be a half day, but you have to block it out and you have to unplug because so much is coming at us. Let me just say a little bit about those Reiki principles, because you too are a practitioner and a teacher of Reiki. And we know the original, right, is just for today, no anger, no worry. And how many of us get through a day without a little bit of anger and worry coming through? But the whole point about present moment is that when we are truly in present moment, there is no past, there is no future. And so there's nothing in the past to be angry about in this present moment. And there's no future to worry about when we're truly in present moment. And our lives are present moment, present moment, present moment. So when we can stay, like you've said, in that presence, that's when we really can serve from the heart and speak from the heart. And so I think this has been part of your journey, and I just really again want to just wrap a virtual hug around you and the work that you're doing and sharing.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Hey, soul seeker, are you curious? Are you hungry to know? Do you have eyes that now see? Do you have ears that can hear? Have you discovered your sense of soul? You're more than you know, more than a body, more than the thoughts that echo in your mind. You've got that sense of soul. You are